Cold ruled much of medieval Europe for long stretches of the year, and winter shaped daily life in ways that can feel hard to imagine now. Homes held very little heat, water often froze before it reached a bowl, and the idea of comfort was measured in simple survival. In these months, women carried the burden of keeping themselves and their households clean while working within limits that were set by weather, tools, and the social rules of the time. A scene opens in a small timber home at the edge of a village. Dawn has not yet fully settled over the fields, but the house is already awake. A woman moves quietly near the hearth. She keeps her hands close to the weak fire as she waits for water to warm in a small iron pot. The air inside the home is still cold enough to sting her nose. Every breath comes out in a thin cloud. There is no luxury here. She depends on the fire, the tools she owns, and the few hours each day when she has the chance to focus on her own hygiene. Outside, a sharp wind pushes across the yard. Snow covers the path leading to the well. Fetching water is slow and often painful. The wooden bucket she brings back is heavy with ice along the sides. Winter water tasks demand strength and patience. She knows the risks. Cold exposure can cause illness. Slippery ground can lead to broken bones. Still, she has work to do. Cleanliness is not only a personal matter. It affects her health, her standing in the household, and in some regions, her spiritual life. Many women viewed cleanliness through religious and cultural expectations that shaped their routines. Inside the home, she warms the water as much as she can. Hot water is rare because fuel is scarce. Firewood must be rationed through the long season. Most households gather enough for cooking and essential warmth, but not enough to heat bath water on a regular basis. Even wealthy homes struggle with fuel shortages when winter drags on. A full bath is a luxury in these months. Instead, women rely on partial washing, warmed cloths, simple herbal rinses, and careful resource management to stay clean without putting themselves or their families at risk. The sound of the pot shifting on the hook breaks the quiet. She tests the water with her fingers. It is warm enough for what she needs. She prepares a linen cloth that she has kept clean by drying it near the hearth after previous use. This is her routine. It is practical, efficient, and shaped by tradition. She cleans her face and hands first. These areas are the most exposed during daily work. She then focuses on personal areas, using warm water in small amounts to maintain hygiene without wasting the limited heat she has managed to create. This careful method is common across many regions. Women develop personal systems based on their home layout, the wood they can spare, and the advice passed through generations. Around her, children begin to stir. The house will soon fill with noise. She works quickly because time alone is rare. Many women perform hygiene tasks early in the morning or late at night when privacy is easiest to find. Bathhouses exist in some towns, but winter travel can be unsafe. Ice on roads and freezing winds make long walks difficult. Bathhouses also carry social expectations, and access depends on class, money, and local customs. Rural women rarely use them. They depend on their homes, their tools, and their ingenuity. The cold outside keeps growing sharper as daylight rises. Smoke from nearby homes climbs into the sky. In each house, women repeat variations of the same tasks. Some heat water in large ceramic jugs. Others melt snow when wells freeze. In regions where herbs are available, women prepare simple infusions with lavender, mint, or rosemary. These mixtures help reduce odor and offer a mild sense of freshness even when full bathing is not possible. By mid-morning, she has finished her cleaning. She dries the cloth carefully, knowing she will need it again in the next few days. Hygiene routines in winter are predictable, but never easy. They require planning and awareness of the risks that come from cold water and limited heat. She carries herself with a quiet understanding. Cleanliness matters, but survival comes first. As the day settles in, she steps outside to begin her work. The path crunches beneath her feet. The cold will follow her everywhere, pressing into her hands and face, shaping each choice she makes. For women across medieval Europe, winter hygiene is not a simple task. It is a daily negotiation with the climate, the tools they have, and the expectations placed upon them. The question is not whether they bathe often, but how they stay clean enough to stay healthy and respected while facing some of the harshest living conditions in their world. In winter, women followed routines that balanced health, modesty, and the practical limits of the season. These habits were built around what they could heat, what they could gather, and how much time they had before the cold pushed them back to the hearth. Each morning usually began with small tasks. Women cleaned their faces and hands with water warmed over the fire. This water was rarely hot. It was warm enough to loosen dirt and remove the chill. A clean cloth or a piece of linen served as both a wash tool and a drying cloth. These small washes helped women stay presentable and kept their skin from cracking in the cold months. Full baths were rare during hard winters. Instead, women cleaned themselves in sections. This method was practical and protected them from the risks of cold water touching too much skin at once. They focused on areas that needed the most attention. Warm cloths made the process quicker and less harsh. Privacy was limited in many homes, so women often washed early in the morning or late at night when the household was quiet. Hair care changed during winter. Washing hair with cold water was dangerous, so many women cleaned their scalp with cloths or used simple powders to absorb oil. Mills produced fine ground materials like oat or bean flour. These powders made hair look fresher and reduced the need for water. When possible, women warmed small amounts of water and massaged it along the scalp without soaking the whole head. Clothing played a large role in hygiene. Women changed their undergarments when they could, but winter laundry was a challenge. Water froze, and drying clothes took long hours. Many relied on wool layers because wool stayed warm even when damp. Linen shifts were changed less often during the cold months, but women still tried to keep at least one set clean for health and comfort. By late day, most fires burned low. Women repeated light washing with the leftover warmth from cooking. This final routine helped keep their skin clean and reduced irritation caused by layers of winter clothing. These daily habits created a steady rhythm. They were not luxurious, but they were effective. Cleanliness in winter was not about feeling fresh. It was about staying healthy and avoiding the dangers that cold weather brought. Winter in medieval Europe arrived with a weight that shaped every part of daily life. Long nights, frozen rivers, and homes that struggled to hold warmth forced people to adjust their routines, especially when it came to basic care. For women, maintaining hygiene in this season was not a matter of comfort but of survival. The cold demanded caution. A few moments of exposure could lead Smoke seeped into fabrics, hair, and bedding. Managing that smell became part of the daily routine, not a task to eliminate entirely, but one to lessen when possible. The introduction to winter hygiene is not only about what women did, but why these rituals mattered. Cleanliness helped prevent disease at a time when illness could spread quickly through a household. Skin left unwashed for too long cracked and became vulnerable to infection. Clothing worn without care held moisture that could chill the body further. Women recognized these risks and worked within their limits to stay healthy. The setting also shaped expectations about modesty. Most households did not have private rooms dedicated to washing. Families often lived in shared spaces that doubled as kitchen, workshop, and sleeping quarters. Women planned their washes during moments of quiet, sometimes before the rest of the household woke, sometimes late at night when only the fire kept watch. They were measured, practical, and shaped by the season. As the day continued, women balanced hygiene with work. They cooked, cared for children, tended animals, and maintained the home. Each task influenced their cleanliness. Cooking added smoke. Walking to a storage building covered clothing with snow. Winter touched everything, and hygiene remained an ongoing. The most important tool was warm water used in small amounts. Women heated just enough over the hearth to soften the chill. They washed the body in sections, keeping most of their clothing on until the last possible moment. This approach protected them from exposure and made the wash quicker. Cloths were used more than water itself. A single clean linen square could serve for face, hands, and personal areas, rinsed and rewarmed as needed. When wells froze, snow became a substitute. Fresh snow was melted in small pots and used sparingly. It took time and firewood to melt enough for washing, so this method was saved for moments when water was completely unavailable. In some regions, women mixed melted snow with herbs or ashes to help with cleansing. The mixture was not pleasant, but it worked. Herbal rinses served as light cleansers. Rosemary, thyme, mint, and sage were dried during the warmer months and stored for winter. A handful steeped in warm water created a mild wash that reduced odor and soothed irritated skin. These herbs also offered small comfort in a season dominated by cold air and wood smoke. Women also used natural materials to clean without water. Fine powders made from ground grains or clay-absorbed oils from skin and hair. After rubbing the powder onto the scalp or skin, they brushed it off with a cloth. It was a simple method that avoided the risks of icy water and kept skin from becoming overly dry. Personal areas required the most attention because infections were a real threat in cold conditions. Women cleaned these areas with warm cloths and gentle herbal water, often at night when the household slept. Privacy was difficult to find, so they worked quickly and quietly. Some women used soft wool as a gentle wiping tool because it held warmth longer than linen. Managing clothing was just as important as managing the body. Outer layers were rarely washed in winter. But linen undergarments absorbed sweat, so women changed them whenever possible. The cleanest garment was saved for nights or for times when illness threatened. Clothing that could not be washed was brushed, aired out near the fire, or packed with herbs to reduce scent. These methods allowed women to keep themselves clean enough to stay healthy without facing the dangers of cold exposure. Winter demanded caution, and hygiene had to work within those limits. Even small routines made a difference. Clean hands, a washed face, a fresh linen shift, and a warm herbal cloth could keep illness at bay. Medieval Europe lived under winters that shaped nearly every part of daily life. Temperatures often fell well below freezing, and snow stayed on the ground for long stretches. Homes were not built to keep out the cold the way modern houses are. Most had drafty walls, wide gaps in the roof beams, and limited insulation. Even inside, the chill was constant, especially at night when the fire burned low to save wood. These conditions influenced how people washed, dressed, worked, and stayed healthy from one season to the next. Rural areas felt the winter even more sharply. Most families depended on the land, and once the harvest ended, work shifted to survival tasks. Firewood had to be rationed. What little fuel they had was saved for cooking and warmth. Using it to heat bathwater was a luxury many could not afford. Wells froze, streams turned to ice, and the simplest task of fetching water became slow and tiring. Women often walked farther in winter because the nearest source was unusable. Carrying heavy buckets through snow or across muddy paths added to the hardship. Inside the home, the hearth was the center of life. It gave warmth, light, and a place to heat food and the rare pot of water for washing. Families often gathered around it because the rest of the house stayed cold. Space near the fire doubled as a washing area, drying area, and sleeping area for the most vulnerable, including children and the elderly. Privacy was limited, and any personal routine had to fit within crowded household spaces. Clothing was another major factor in the winter environment. Wool was essential because it stayed warm even when slightly damp. Most people owned only a few garments, and washing them in the cold months was risky. Wet clothes froze quickly, and drying them indoors could take days. Women relied on layers of linen and wool to stay warm. These layers also trapped smoke from the hearth, sweat, and daily dust, which made hygiene more challenging. The winter diet also shaped health and comfort. With fresh produce unavailable, meals centered on grains, preserved meats, dried vegetables, and stored fats. These foods kept people alive but lacked variety and sometimes led to digestive strain or skin dryness. Warm drinks such as broths or herb teas offered small relief, but were tied to how much fuel a family could spare. Hydration affected skin health, especially when the air was dry and the cold cut through exposed areas. Communities in northern and central Europe felt the longest winters. Coastal areas had slightly milder conditions, but storms and damp winds brought their own difficulties. Mountain regions experienced heavy snow and isolation. Roads became treacherous and travel slowed or stopped entirely. Trade delayed, supplies thinned, and the cold deepened the sense of hardship. Women managing hygiene had to work within these limits using whatever resources they could find. Illness was a constant threat. Cold air weakened the body, and smoke-filled homes irritated eyes and lungs. Limited washing could lead to skin irritation or minor infections that, without proper care, became more serious. Women had to watch for these risks in themselves and their households. Simple habits such as airing bedding, wiping hands with warm cloths, and brushing dust from clothing took on real importance. Despite these conditions, people adapted. They learned the best ways to manage warmth, conserve water, and maintain routines that protected their health. Their environment set the boundaries, and daily habits grew from those boundaries. Winter demanded patience and steady effort. Small acts of cleanliness, warmth, and organization helped families move through the season until the weather eased. Winter introduced a set of challenges that shaped women's daily routines in clear and demanding ways. The cold itself was an obstacle. Simple actions such as washing hands, cleaning linens, or heating a pot of water required planning. Water froze quickly, and heating enough for any kind of washing consumed precious fuel. Wood, peat, or straw had to last through the season. Families often struggled to decide whether to use their limited supply for warmth, cooking, or hygiene. Every choice carried a cost. Another challenge was the limited privacy inside medieval homes. Most families lived in one or two rooms shared by several people. Washing required space, and space was rare. Women often had to wait for the right moment to warm water at the hearth, usually early in the morning or late at night when chores slowed and others were asleep. Even then, interruptions were common. A quiet moment for personal care was something earned, not assumed. Illness presented a constant threat. The cold weakened the body, and limited washing could lead to irritated skin or small infections. With medical knowledge limited and treatments sometimes unreliable, women relied on familiarity with herbs, warm cloths, and basic hygiene to prevent issues from worsening. They knew which parts of the body needed regular attention, even in the coldest weeks, and which practices helped maintain comfort without excessive use of water. Heavy winter clothing created another difficulty. Layers of wool were warm, but also heavy and difficult to clean. Removing them too often exposed the body to cold air that could cause chills. Washing garments risked freezing or slow drying times that left people without essential layers. Women had to balance warmth with cleanliness and decide when to wash clothing based on weather, available fuel, and household demands. Water access was one of the strongest conflicts of the season. Wells froze, streams iced over, and lakes became dangerous to approach. Fetching water required strength and caution. Women carrying buckets over icy paths risked slipping, spilling, or injury. Once they returned home, they still had to heat the water slowly at the hearth. It was a time-consuming cycle that shaped every decision related to hygiene. The household workload added another layer to these challenges. Winter increased the number of indoor tasks. Women cared for children, monitored food stores, prepared meals, tended to the sick, and kept the home organized. With these responsibilities, finding time for personal hygiene required intention. It was not a simple daily habit, but a part of a larger system of survival that had to fit between other pressing needs. The social expectation of maintaining a presentable appearance also played a role. Even in harsh winters, women were expected to show care for themselves and their families. This pressure sometimes conflicted with the reality of limited resources. Keeping hair combed, hands clean, and clothing fresh required resourcefulness. Ash water, warm cloths, and herbal rinses helped bridge the gap when full washing was not possible. Finally, the emotional strain of winter weighed heavily. Shorter days, limited sunlight, and constant cold affected mood and energy. Maintaining routines in the face of fatigue required discipline. Women carried the responsibility of holding together the household stability, and small lapses in hygiene could create discomfort that spread through the family. These challenges highlight resilient and resourceful in the face of brutal winter conditions. Comparing winter hygiene practices in medieval Europe with other societies of the same period and later eras reveals both limitations and ingenuity. In Northern Europe, harsh winters and leveraging natural herbs to maintain health and odor control. Even in Japan during similar periods, partial washing, steaming, and herbal treatments were common in colder regions. This suggests that adaptation to cold was universal, though methods varied based on available resources and cultural preferences. These comparisons highlight the creativity required to manage hygiene in extreme environments. While medieval European women faced some of the harshest winters, their techniques were not unique in principle. Other societies developed analogous strategies suited to their climate and materials. The lessons from these comparisons demonstrate how necessity drove innovation in daily life, creating routines that balanced health, comfort, and survival under environmental constraints. Cultural beliefs in medieval Europe influenced how women approached hygiene during winter. Cleanliness was not only practical but also connected to notions of health, morality, and spiritual well-being. Many believe that maintaining a clean body helped protect against disease, but overexposure to cold during bathing could weaken the body and invite illness, a balance that shaped daily routines. Religious practices played a subtle role. Some faiths emphasized modesty and restraint, discouraging excessive bathing during cold months. Women adapted by washing only essential areas, using cloths and herbal rinses rather than full immersion in cold water. Certain rituals adapted to protect against lifestyle-related risks. Changing linen undergarments, wiping the skin with warm cloths, and using powdered grains or clay for oil absorption mitigated skin irritation and reduced the spread of minor infections. Women also monitored children and the elderly, applying similar practices to maintain warmth and cleanliness within the household. Clothing and bedding played a direct role in health. Layers of wool kept the body insulated, while carefully aired and rotated linens minimized dampness, which could lead to chills or skin issues. Even small habits, like brushing off ashes or dust from clothing, were practical interventions to maintain hygiene and overall well-being. Through careful attention to hygiene, diet, and warmth, women maintained a delicate balance between survival and health. Their daily routines in winter were not merely about comfort. They were preventive measures that reduced illness and sustained life through the most challenging months. The strategies medieval women developed to manage hygiene during the brutal winter months had a profound and lasting influence on the households and societies that followed. While modern audiences might take for granted access to hot water, indoor plumbing, and an array of cleansing products, in the medieval period, every aspect of personal hygiene was constrained by the environment, available resources, and social expectations. Women's careful management of water, fuel, clothing, and herbal cleansers established a foundation of domestic knowledge that was passed down from generation to generation, shaping not only daily routines but also broader cultural attitudes toward cleanliness, health, and household management. One of the most significant impacts of these practices was the development of practical household wisdom. Women learned to ration water for personal use and clothing care, balancing the need for hygiene with the realities to daughters, creating a living tradition of problem-solving that relied on observation, adaptation, and careful timing. Daughters learned when and how to wash, which herbs to use for cleansing and scent, and how to rotate and air clothing to avoid dampness. This intergenerational transfer of knowledge ensured that essential survival skills were preserved and refined over time. Clothing management techniques developed during harsh winters had an especially long-lasting influence. Women mastered the art of layering woolen outer garments with linen undergarments to protect against cold while maintaining personal hygiene. Linens could be aired, lightly cleaned, and rotated to prolong usability, while wool provided necessary warmth without frequent washing. These practices evolved over the centuries into more sophisticated methods of textile care, influencing how households approach laundry, clothing maintenance, and domestic hygiene in the early modern period. By teaching younger generations to care for garments efficiently, medieval women instilled habits of resource conservation and practical foresight that persisted even as homes became larger and more technologically equipped. Herbal hygiene practices also left a cultural legacy. The use of rosemary, sage, thyme, and other aromatic plants for washing, scent, and minor antiseptic purposes became a core part of domestic medicine. This tradition persisted into the early modern period, influencing household remedies and shaping the rudimentary pharmacological knowledge available to women and midwives. The combination of practical cleanliness and medicinal use of herbs reflects a sophisticated understanding of the connections between hygiene, health, and the environment. These approaches helped future generations develop early preventive practices long before germ theory or modern medicine provided a scientific framework. The social dimension of hygiene practices further strengthened their impact. Women's responsibility for maintaining cleanliness in the household extended beyond individual health. It reinforced social expectations, taught discipline, and supported family reputation. A woman who demonstrated skill in managing water, warmth, and clothing conveyed competence and authority within the household and the broader community. By observing and adopting these practices, daughters and younger women internalized not only practical skills but also cultural norms regarding responsibility, diligence, and care for others. These norms influence social interactions, marriage expectations, and community cohesion for generations. The integration of hygiene with household survival also contributed to long-term family health. Medieval winters were harsh, and illness spread easily in poorly ventilated homes. By developing careful routines, partial washing, herbal rinses, airing linens near the hearth, and maintaining dry clothing, women minimized the risk of respiratory infections, skin irritation, and other winter-related health issues. This practical knowledge helped reduce mortality and morbidity within households, contributing to stronger, more resilient communities. Families who passed down these practices were better equipped to survive the cold months, creating continuity in health and survival strategies that extended beyond the immediate generation. Architectural and technological developments were influenced indirectly by these domestic practices. As women demonstrated the benefits of localized washing areas and efficient hearth use, household designs gradually adapted to accommodate hygiene needs. By the late medieval and early modern periods, dedicated spaces for bathing, laundry, and linen care became more common in wealthier homes, reflecting an evolution of the routines established in harsher conditions. Even in smaller or rural households, the principles of proximity to heat, careful water management, and safe drying informed everyday arrangements and the organization of living spaces. Religious and cultural practices further reinforced the transmission of hygiene knowledge. Many routines were integrated with prayer, modesty requirements, and ceremonial preparation, blending spiritual and practical considerations. This integration taught younger generations that cleanliness was a measure of discipline, devotion, and social responsibility, providing moral as well as physical justification who mastered the challenges of freezing temperatures, limited water, and scarce fuel not only protected themselves and their families but also ensured the survival of practical wisdom that informed household management for centuries. Their routines reinforced intergenerational learning. needs. For instance, certain washes or rinses were timed to align with prayer routines or ceremonial responsibilities, while modesty concerns dictated which parts of the body could be cleaned in public or shared spaces. This blending of culture and necessity shows that practical knowledge is often inseparable from social and moral frameworks. Modern audiences can learn from this that effective routines often require an understanding of the broader context, physical, social, and cultural in which they operate. The role of intergenerational learning is another central lesson. Much of the hygiene knowledge in medieval households was passed from mother to daughter, often through hands-on demonstration rather than written manuals. Mothers taught daughters how to heat water efficiently, manage clothing layers, use herbs for cleansing, and schedule washing routines around daily responsibilities. This transfer of practical wisdom ensured continuity, allowing each generation to refine and improve on the strategies of the previous one. Today, this principle underscores the value of mentoring and knowledge sharing in any context, whether in household management, professional skills, or health practices. Teaching and learning through experience remains one of the most reliable methods for preserving and improving practical expertise. The careful use of natural resources also carries a lesson in sustainability and resourcefulness. Fuel was scarce, water needed to be heated with effort, and herbs were gathered and preserved with care. Women learned to use only what was necessary, to repurpose materials, and to combine multiple functions such as warmth, scent, and cleaning in a single practice. These strategies reflect an early form of efficiency and environmental mindfulness. Modern viewers can draw parallels with contemporary challenges, where thoughtful use of resources can reduce waste, conserve energy, and promote both individual well-being and community sustainability. Additionally, the attention to health, despite environmental limitations, demonstrates a clear understanding of risk management. Women knew that exposure to cold water or damp fabrics could cause illness, yet they found ways to maintain cleanliness while minimizing that risk. Partial washing, careful drying, and herbal treatments were deliberate choices to balance hygiene with survival. This teaches a broader lesson about decision-making under constraints, assessing potential risks, implementing mitigating strategies, and making informed choices even when perfect conditions are unavailable. The cultural and social dimensions of hygiene also convey a lesson about human dignity and the maintenance of social order. Cleanliness was not solely a matter of health. It was tied to reputation, morality, and social expectation. A well-maintained household and carefully managed personal hygiene reflected discipline, care for family members, and social responsibility. These practices suggest that personal routines, even in the most challenging conditions, have an impact beyond the individual. They shape family dynamics, community perception, and cultural continuity. Modern audiences can recognize that maintaining dignity and social responsibility, even in daily routines, contributes to broader societal cohesion and personal well-being. Finally, the medieval experience demonstrates that resilience is built through small, deliberate actions. Washing a face with a warm cloth, airing linens by the hearth, layering garments strategically. Each of these actions alone may seem minor, but together they constituted a comprehensive approach to surviving harsh winters. This highlights the cumulative power of consistent, thoughtful effort over time. In contemporary terms, resilience often comes not from dramatic measures, but from a series of intentional, carefully executed daily practices that preserve health, stability, and adaptability in challenging circumstances. In conclusion, the lessons from medieval women's winter hygiene practices are multidimensional. They encompass adaptability, preventive health, resourcefulness, intergenerational learning, cultural awareness, risk management, social responsibility, and resilience. Each of these lessons remains relevant today, whether applied to personal care, household management, or broader strategies for navigating challenging environments. By studying how women in the past overcame extreme conditions, modern audiences gain insight into the universality of human problem solving, the value of practical knowledge, and the enduring importance of balancing health, dignity, and survival in everyday life. These historical routines, though shaped by harsh winters and limited resources, provide timeless examples of thoughtful, deliberate, and resourceful living. The story of winter hygiene in medieval Europe offers a profound window into the resilience, ingenuity, and discipline of women living under extreme environmental constraints. Faced with freezing temperatures, limited water supplies, scarce fuel, and cramped living quarters, women developed strategies to maintain personal and household cleanliness while protecting the health of their families. These practices were neither simple nor optional. They required careful planning, attention to detail, and a nuanced understanding of how environmental conditions, social norms, and health considerations intersected. What might appear to a modern viewer as rudimentary or austere was, in reality, an intricate system of survival, comfort, and dignity, adapted to one of the harshest climates of medieval Europe. One of the most striking elements of these routines was the deliberate and strategic approach to hygiene. Women recognized that exposure to cold water could result in illness or prolonged discomfort, yet neglecting cleanliness entirely also carried health risks. The solution was a series of carefully timed and methodically executed tasks. Partial washes with warm cloths, strategic use of herbal rinses, airing and rotating linens, and layering of clothing created a practical balance between warmth and cleanliness. Each of these measures was rooted in observation, experience, and trial and error, highlighting a sophisticated understanding of cause and effect in daily life. These routines were not simply about appearance or social expectation. They were preventive measures designed to protect health in an environment that offered little margin for error. The use of herbs and other natural materials played a central role in maintaining hygiene. Rosemary, thyme, sage, and other botanicals were employed for cleansing, scent, and minor antiseptic purposes. This reflects an early understanding of the benefits of natural remedies, long before formalized medicine or germ theory became widely recognized. Women learned to combine practicality with the medicinal and aromatic properties of plants, creating routines that addressed both cleanliness and well-being. These practices also reinforced intergenerational knowledge transfer, as daughters learned not only how to wash and care for clothing, but also which herbs to use, how to prepare them, and how to apply them effectively. Cultural and religious norms were deeply intertwined with hygiene practices, shaping the timing, method, and social acceptability of cleaning. Modesty, ritual preparation, and social propriety influenced decisions about when and how washing occurred. For instance, certain washes were timed to coincide with prayers or ceremonial duties, reflecting the integration of spiritual and practical considerations. These norms reinforced discipline and attention to detail, creating routines that were as much about moral responsibility and family reputation as they were about health. Women navigated these expectations with skill, ensuring that hygiene was maintained without violating social conventions, an achievement that required both social intelligence and practical foresight. The broader social impact of these practices cannot be overstated. By managing cleanliness and household hygiene, women contributed directly to the health and stability of their families and communities. Well-maintained homes reduced the spread of disease and provided comfort in harsh conditions, setting standards for family management and social conduct. Teaching younger generations these practices ensured continuity, establishing a culture of care, responsibility, and resourcefulness that extended far beyond the individual household. The ability to pass down such knowledge highlights the importance of intergenerational learning as a mechanism for resilience and societal continuity, demonstrating that everyday practices can have enduring influence over time. Another significant aspect of these routines was the resourcefulness required to execute them effectively. Fuel, water, and materials were scarce during the cold months, so women had to maximize efficiency without compromising health or comfort. Layered clothing, careful use of hearth heat, and the minimal yet strategic application of herbs and water exemplified a practical economy of effort and materials. These routines illustrate the capacity for human ingenuity under constraint, showing how necessity drives innovation and careful planning. Modern audiences can draw parallels to contemporary challenges, from sustainable living to emergency preparedness, recognizing that thoughtful, deliberate practices often yield the greatest results in challenging circumstances. The impact of these practices extends beyond immediate survival to influence broader domestic and societal development. Architectural design, for example, gradually adapted to the needs identified by women over centuries. The arrangement of hearths, the inclusion of dedicated washing areas, and the design of sleeping spaces to maintain warmth and dryness reflect the evolving understanding of hygiene's role in daily life. Similarly, the cultural emphasis on clean and orderly households informed norms of discipline, responsibility, and propriety that persisted into early modern Europe. These contributions, though subtle, demonstrate how everyday routines can shape material culture, social norms, and even long-term public health strategies. Ultimately, reflecting on these practices reveals the depth of human resilience and the sophistication of seemingly simple routines. Medieval women faced conditions that tested the limits of endurance, yet they developed systems of care that were practical, effective, and culturally informed. Their strategies balanced multiple priorities: health, modesty, warmth, resource conservation, and social expectations, demonstrating a nuanced understanding of complex challenges. This reflection encouraged modern audiences to appreciate the intelligence and adaptability embedded in ordinary daily tasks, and to recognize that survival often depends as much on careful planning and small, consistent actions as it does on access to advanced technology or resources. In conclusion, the study of winter hygiene in medieval Europe offers both historical insight and timeless lessons. Women's routines reveal a convergence of practical knowledge, cultural expectation, and preventive health that shaped daily life and left an enduring legacy. By examining these practices, we gain a deeper appreciation for the resilience, foresight, and resourcefulness required to thrive under extreme conditions. The routines, skills, and knowledge passed down through generations influenced household management, social norms, and cultural continuity. They remind us that even in the harshest environments, human ingenuity and care for oneself and others can create systems that protect health, preserve dignity, and sustain life. These lessons transcend time, offering a model of adaptability, discipline, and thoughtful living that resonates even in the modern world. As the documentary draws to a close, imagine stepping into a modest medieval home on a snowbound evening, the harsh winter winds howling beyond the thick stone walls. Smoke rises in soft spirals from a low hearth, casting a golden glow that illuminates a small but organized domestic space. The air carries the mingled scent of burning wood and dried herbs, which have been carefully prepared for cleaning and freshening linens. In this room, a woman kneels by the hearth, gently heating a small pot of water. Her hands, weathered yet practiced, carefully dip a linen cloth into the warm liquid. She begins to wipe her face and hands, pausing to allow the warmth of the cloth to penetrate the chill in her skin. Around her, life unfolds quietly but purposefully. Children sleep under heavy blankets. A dog curls near the hearth for warmth, and every action is deliberate, shaped by necessity and refined skill. The scene emphasizes the delicate balance medieval women maintained between survival and hygiene. Every task is an exercise in resourcefulness. Water is heated sparingly, fuel is conserved, and herbal additives are applied strategically to maximize both cleanliness and scent. This careful choreography demonstrates the extraordinary adaptability required to sustain health and comfort in a setting that offers no modern conveniences. While contemporary viewers may find the conditions stark or even uncomfortable, there is a quiet dignity in this deliberate attention to daily routines. The woman's movements, slow but methodical, underscore her mastery of environment, timing, and resources, showing that even under extreme conditions, thoughtful actions can preserve well-being. The closing visual also reflects broader social and cultural dimensions. Hygiene in this period was intertwined with modesty, family responsibility, and social expectation. The woman's routines are not performed in isolation. They are a measure of care for herself, her household, and the reputation of her family within the community. Each small act, airing linens, gently cleaning the skin, layering clothing for warmth, carries significance beyond the immediate physical benefit. These practices reinforce discipline, patience, and attention to detail, qualities essential for survival and respected in social circles. The viewer is invited to consider how such routines, though seemingly mundane, shaped household norms, intergenerational learning, and social cohesion, leaving a legacy that would influence domestic practices for generations. Herbal knowledge and the careful use of materials further highlight the sophisticated understanding medieval women had of their environment. Rosemary, thyme, and sage are not merely fragrant additions. They are applied with practical intention to cleanse, preserve, and protect. The integration of these natural resources illustrates early awareness of hygiene's relationship to health, an understanding that predates formal medical theory. Modern audiences can reflect on the ingenuity of using the environment intelligently, leveraging available resources to meet multiple needs: cleanliness, health, scent, and even psychological comfort simultaneously. This multi-tiered approach to problem-solving is both instructive and inspiring. The moment also conveys a subtle tension between fragility and resilience. Outside, the relentless cold and snow demonstrate the harshness of the environment. Yet inside, the household thrives through careful management, adaptation, and skill. This juxtaposition emphasizes that resilience often emerges not from extraordinary interventions, but from sustained, deliberate routines and thoughtful attention to the immediate surroundings. The visual is a meditation on human adaptability. Survival and dignity are preserved not through chance, but through repeated, conscientious actions that reflect both experience and foresight. The viewer is encouraged to imagine the long-term ripple effects of these routines. Each careful act of washing, airing, or layering contributes to the health and survival of children, ensuring that knowledge and habits are passed down. The subtle transmission of skills from one generation to the next underscores the importance of observation, mentorship, and modeling behavior. Modern audiences can draw parallels to their own lives. Small, consistent actions, whether in personal care, household management, or broader life strategies, can have a profound impact over time. The scene reminds us that resilience, resourcefulness, and foresight are timeless human qualities that transcend technological or societal context. The visual also invites reflection on the universe.